I just want to say, like I always will, every single time that a new video goes up, or the reoccurring love and support, all the views and everything that you guys bring to the table, I really appreciate everything. And I always will. This is something that I will always clarify and reassure and bring to light because it's the truth. And I just want to say that, I'm excited to see where this goes later down the road, this journey, this path that we all feel like we're going to go on the exact same time. I'm excited, but always remember that none of it would be possible without you. It's been a couple years since this happened, but I finally decided to reach out to talk about it. 2 years back, June of 2020, I was alone in my house for multiple hours at a time. My mother had to work and I was unemployed. I spent most of my time doing homework while she was gone. Dog walking, dishes, laundry, etc. One day, it was probably around noon. I was eating lunch when I heard two people talking to each other upstairs. As I stated, I was home alone. Me and my mother live alone. The voices sounded like a middle-aged man and woman talking about something. I could never understand exactly what they were saying, but I could determine that it was two separate voices. They even talked over each other at times. I, being extremely paranoid, grabbed my dog and locked myself in one of the downstairs bathrooms. I was in there for around 30 minutes, waiting for my mother to come home. When she came back, the voices stopped. I thought that might have been it, but the next day, it happened again. This time, instead of hiding, I decided to call out to them. I said a simple, "Hello," and the voices immediately stopped. This same cycle would repeat for the rest of the summer. Ever since I heard their voices, more unexplained stuff would happen around the house. Again, only when I was alone. The scariest moment for me was, I was again home alone, but it was later in the day. My mother had to take my aunt to the hospital for chemo treatment, so she'd be gone for a long while due to my aunt living an hour away from us. I was laying in my bedroom upstairs when I heard someone sprint up my stairs. Of course, I freaked out and immediately stood up. The person then sprinted back down my stairs. I lived in a very old home. Every step on those stairs are loud creaks. I could hear every footstep and, oddly enough, the footsteps never hit the plain floor, as if the person never stepped off the stairs. During another one of the loud sprints, I flung open my bedroom door and looked at the stairs. The sprinting stopped. When I looked, but there was no one there, scared the absolute shit out of me. And I told my mother about it when she got home, but she pushed it off as me just being paranoid. I've had multiple more experiences with what I assume is the paranormal, but what's starting to concern me is that it's not restricted to just my house. Those voices and running have not returned, but much more stuff happened over the past. When I was a kid, probably around 10, I had a bunk bed that was directly beneath the attic entrance. It was a house built in 1914. After the family who built it was gone, my ancestors moved in and owned the house since the late 30s and 40s, so there was a lot of paranormal shit that happened growing up in that house. Too much of a list for people to want to read, but one event stands out the most. That attic entrance was just a wooden panel. No fancy staircase or ladder that dropped down. A very small panel. I was always curious about what was in the attic, so I got on my bunk bed and looked through a crack. Inside, I saw a whole room that didn't exist. This was an old attic that wasn't strong enough to hold anything to store because it would break the ceiling. I saw bright, sunlit windows that weren't there with curtains that were wiggling and flowing from an air source. There was also a bed with what looked like a curly, fancy Victorian canopy frame. I was drawn to look at the bed and started following the frame to the ceiling. There was a long pole on the headboard that was unnecessarily tall, and I couldn't see the top. So I adjusted the wood panel and started to slowly follow the pole upwards. I got really afraid and instinctively felt like I shouldn't see what was at the top of that pole. I also had this instinct that someone was in the attic, and they were near the top of that pole, and I didn't want to see them. I ran downstairs to my parents and asked them to check the attic because of what I saw. I know it wasn't a dream because my parents remember me running to them and telling them what I saw. I also intentionally climbed onto the bed to look into the attic, rather than having been asleep. When I was in my early days of my career and joined an internship in a small town, a few of us were housed by the company we worked for in a modified apartment. They had basically joined 2 apartments together, so there were 3 bedrooms and a bathroom on each side with a long corridor in between. Towards the end of the assignment, we had a group presentation, so the bunch of us living on our side, we worked on the presentation together, decided to head very early into the office and practice. As per our plans made the previous evening, me and this girl called Simna woke up around 4:30 and we could use the 2 bathrooms each and get ready. I didn't mind using the bathroom at the other end of the corridor, so I collected my toiletries and headed that way. Simna was doing the same on our side, and we didn't really talk as it was too early and others were sleeping. The 2 bedrooms on the other side were empty, and one was closed. I assumed they were just sleeping. I set my stuff on the counter and realized I forgot my bath towel. So I came out of the bathroom and saw Sinma standing in the middle of the darkened corridor with her back to me. I halted immediately. Something seemed very off with the way she was standing. The hair on my arms was rising, and a warning bells went off in my head. I must have made some sound because this person turned their head around to look at me. It looked exactly like her, but was smiling broadly at me, like really smirking. I quickly said, "Hey, what's going on?" But at the same backed up into the bathroom, where she was and where the light was, and hot water to use as a weapon. I didn't dare come out, and I just started praying. After around 20 to 25 minutes, I heard knocking on the bathroom door, and my roommate's voice asking me if I was done. I didn't say anything to her. I couldn't understand it myself. But as I walked down the corridor to my room, I saw Simna getting ready in her room. I went to her and was like, "What the hell, dude? You scared me." And she did not know what I was talking about. I did not know this girl very well, but she was not a prankster. Also, it was too early in the morning and we were too geared up about the presentation for her to do something like that and pretend like nothing happened. Till the end of that internship, she maintained it wasn't her, and that scared me. I've always believed in paranormal things, and since I was little, I had some experiences. Nothing too deep, I guess, but I can remember a lot of it. For example, I remember clearly once when I was about 7, and I was playing by myself near the stairs and I saw a shadow in the shape of a man. I could see no face, but he was wearing a long coat and carrying a gun. He went upstairs and left the gun there. I didn't do anything, but I always remember this day. It was one of my most memorable experiences. I've always felt some presences in places, like someone was there, but I could not see him. Recently, I started to feel a presence here in my apartment, especially when my boyfriend isn't home. We live together. It passes behind me and I see only the remains of a shadow, but I'm keeping it cool. It doesn't bother me or scare me, but I don't enjoy it either. Today, my boyfriend was home and said he saw a ghost. I was kind of happy because it was always just me seeing it until then. However, he said, I don't know if it was really a ghost because I thought it was you. It was dressed just like you. And well, I had left the room in which we were together a few minutes ago, so I guess it may have just been deja vu or something. Back in, I believe, 8th grade, I had come home on a Saturday from a science camp or whatever. Anyway, I go and sit in our living room, which has a large window towards the street outside. I didn't have my glasses on. I turn to my right and a white crescent shape flashes by heading left. So against my line of vision, I think it was a car. But I didn't hear nor see any cars go by. Then, things intensified. Almost every night, I would constantly hear the fridge door open and then close. But when I would get up and check it, it looked undisturbed. But it started sounding like someone was cleaning beer bottles. But we have none in the fridge, as I am a minor and my grandparents can't drink. One night, I even hear a young man mumbling. It was almost as if I was focusing on the voice, not the words, because I didn't catch anything he said. Again, I would get up and check, and nothing would be amiss. Then, one Saturday night, I woke and was paralyzed with fear. Then a shadow figure with an afro walked by my room into the wall. There is a closet above my AC vent there. Once they passed, I was able to jump up and close the door. I never slept with my door open again. After that, nothing really happened. The only thing I would consider borderline paranormal was when I took showers. If I locked the door, the handle would shake as if someone was trying to open it. Then, one day, I heard banging, then a boom that shook the door. Since then, nothing's happened that I can do or tie to this. One thing was I did EVP session with the tape recorder. I turned off all the fans and muted the TV so there would be no background noise. I asked a series of questions. I got no answers, except for, "What is your name?" In which I got a signed response that was either Joe or John. The recorder has since broken, but I think I still have the tape. Anyway, that was my paranormal experience. This happened years ago as a kid, but I still think about it often, as I'm still trying to make sense of it. Around 2011, I was a victim of a dog attack while out of town. Luckily, I made it out safely, but I was in shock that night. A few nights later, after I arrived back home, I would constantly wake up to sounds of barking or the visualization of a dog running towards me just as I was falling asleep, which I chalked up to just being my mind playing tricks on me from the trauma. A few nights later, I woke up around 2 a.m. and I heard the walking throughout the hallway just outside my room. I pretty much froze as it was pretty terrifying, hearing movement but not being able to determine if it's a family member or not. As I laid in bed facing the door, hoping the noise would eventually stop, I see an old lady in a sort of white gown and gray hair walk into my room. In her hands was a small dog. At this point, I was too terrified to even speak. All I could do was grip my blanket and hope for the ghostly lady to leave. She didn't leave. In fact, she came closer until she was standing over me on the side of my bed. Yet, she said nothing. At that point, I threw my blanket over my face because I didn't even want to see what was wanted or why she was here for me. Soon after, my blanket is over my face, I feel her place the dog onto my bed. I literally felt it walking over me while I was laying there, frozen. A short while after, I stopped feeling the dog on me, so I assumed the lady left. But I stayed under the blanket until I fell back asleep because I was too freaked out to even peek my head out to be sure. The next morning when I woke up, I immediately jumped up out of bed looking for evidence, anything to confirm that what happened the night before actually happened. That's when I looked at my blanket itself that the dog walked all over, and there it was, paw prints left on the blanket. With the type of material it was made from, a person could push his hand into it and a handprint would remain for a few hours, and there was no mistaking it. They were clear as day. I immediately ran to tell my mom, which she didn't even believe me because, of course, if a kid tells you that they've seen a ghost or a spirit, it comes off as skeptical, so she kind of brushed it off. But this wasn't the end of it in that house. Over time, I kept having more and more encounters at night of hearing footsteps, whispers, and even seeing various figures. Eventually, my mom took my word and took me to a psychiatrist who basically said I have PTSD from whatever I was seeing during those encounters at night, along with the dog attack, but couldn't explain the encounters as being hallucinations due to the proof of what I saw, the paw prints. I'm now 21 years old and it still haunts me that I never really got answers or an explanation of how it was possible. Not even the psychiatrist had an excuse. The fact that it still bugs me has led me here. So I'm asking you guys, what do you think of this encounter? So, for some backstory, I lived in a house with roommates for a short time. The house wasn't too creepy, but there was a closet just off the kitchen that always gave me terrible vibes. So I'm not sure if maybe there is or was something in that closet. Anyway, I had 2 dreams while living there that freaked me out quite bad. Honestly, I had bad dreams frequently while living there, but these 2 really scared me. In the first, I was sitting at my desk, and to sort of paint a picture, my desk was along the same wall that the door to my room was, with maybe 1.5 feet between where the desk started and the door. In the dream, I was on my computer, but I felt really anxious, like I knew something was on its way or something bad was going to happen. And then I looked to my left, to the door, and a shadow person opened it and looked right at me. The feeling I got was that it knew I was going to be right at the desk. It didn't have to look around the room for me, and it wanted me. I woke up right after seeing the figure, and I was so scared for a couple of seconds that I couldn't breathe, and I didn't want to open my eyes. In the second dream, I was in the house before there was any furniture or anything else in it. The entry door to the house was different, and I knew that I was in a different time period than today. I was moving furniture in with my best friend, and we heard the front door open. A strange detail I remember is that it was a screen door, so it had a distinct slam sound. My friend and I hid under the furniture we had been moving in. I hid under a desk, and just as I ducked down, I heard heavy footsteps. I held my breath as it got closer, and I felt a terrible energy come over the desk, and I just knew it was looking towards right where I was hiding. I also knew that it was another shadow person, despite not having seen it. Then it spoke, and it genuinely had the most terrifying voice I have ever heard. It was looking at the desk. It knew someone was under there, and it said, "Steven, where are you?" And I knew when that said, it was hunting. Kind of funny too, because when it said Steven, I felt myself relax in my dream. Like, oh, thank God, that's not my name. After it said that, I felt it move away from the desk. Like it knew when it didn't feel a reaction that whatever was under the desk wasn't Steven. Then it continued on into another room, and my friend and I ran out of the house. I woke up then and had the same reaction where I froze for a second until I realized it was just another dream. I still get a bad feeling when I think about those dreams though, and I'd love to hear anyone's opinions on them and why I had 2 about shadow people when I've never had any paranormal dreams before. I was laying in my bed scrolling on my phone. Then I got a sudden, very sudden, urge to pee. I got up to pee, and when I walked in the hallway to go back to my room, a figure of a tall, 6-foot-ish man was standing in the front of my door, staring at me. It didn't have a face or anything, but it just felt like it was staring at me. It was standing with its arms at its sides, fully black figure. It kinda looked 2-dimensional. It didn't look fuzzy or hazy. A perfecting male body staring and standing, just fully black, a shadow. I was frozen. I tried screaming and moving, but I was stuck. Then after like 10 seconds, it walked away. Its legs were so long. It walked right through my bed, 2 steps, before it disappeared. I went to my parents and they tried calming me down. I was shaking for like an hour. I slept in my sister's bed last night. I'm not going back to my room. I wasn't even tired. I didn't wake up recently. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. And it was smack dab in the middle of the day. The entire house was bright. My mom thinks it was someone astral projecting in my room. There are a few times in my life where I should have died, but I didn't. And I'm sharing, in my opinion, the two scariest ones. When I went to Paris to see the Eiffel Tower with some friends, and as I went to the railing, because I thought I saw a car crash out of the corner of my eye, I grabbed the railing, then freeze. A drone goes flying a few inches in front of my face. No one was around. So, I was confused when it felt like someone grabbed my hood and held me back. The second time, when I was younger, I was going to my nearby park, was right across the way from it, to go catch some Pokemon in Pokemon Go. Everyone stops for me at the crosswalk, and 2 steps before the turn lane, I freeze in place, like someone held me back. An electric Mustang speeds past, didn't even honk. And yes, I looked both ways. Didn't see the Mustang at all. My dad was watching to make sure I got across safely. From our house, he said he saw a man made of what appeared to be mist running after me. Full-blown sprint is how he described it. I need to know. What was that thing that saved me 10 times runneth over? I'm staying at this hotel in California. Nothing special. Just any American middle-class stay. The area surrounding is relatively run down, like most of our Los Angeles area. I've been sleeping on the pull-out couch, next to this mirror placed against the wall. I used to not think much of mirrors next to where you sleep or chairs facing your bed. But the more I thought about it, the more sense it made. So I was hesitant to sleep here in the first place. The room itself was nice, just like the rest of the building. It's the third and last night of our stay. I woke up about 4 a.m. I could see the closet in the mirror right next to me. I saw a mannequin standing, facing the queen-sized bed across from me. It wasn't just a glance. I even turned to the closet and there it was. The mannequin itself was one of the ones who didn't have a head and was fully dressed in the clothes that were hanging in the closet before I saw it. I asked my mom if she saw what I saw. Because it was so early, she replied with a, "Yeah," and went back to sleep. So did I. The morning came and the mannequin was gone. I asked if she really did see what I saw, and she said no. I couldn't have been a dream. My mom definitely remembered me asking about it. Nothing else was in the closet when I saw it, only the mannequin and the clothing on it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If your story was told, I'm glad I'm the one who could tell it. I appreciate all the love and support. I hope you enjoyed today's stories as much as I did reading them.